Hey, greetings everyone, and good evening, Lieutenant Colonel Allen West, and welcome to our Facebook Live event, and welcome to our home here in the beautiful Eastern Hills of Garland, Texas. Kind of a yucky day out, kind of gray. Going to get a lot of rain this week, but never turn down rain. Hey, it's been a while since we've been able to do one of these Facebook Live events, and that's because running for the chairmanship of the Republican Party of Texas has had me out and about all over the great state of Texas. The Lone Star State has 254 counties, and it's pretty an expansive state. But with the recent coronavirus scare, everyone has pretty much so shut down those public speaking events. So I think it's very important that we still stay connected, and it's just great to go back to this type of outlet, this type of means by which we can keep that communications going on, because I'm sure there's a lot of concerns that you have on your mind, and I'd like to share, as we used to do, thoughts, perspectives, and insights about the things that we see going on, not just in the state of Texas, but across the United States of America. And so I'll spend about 15 minutes and talking about some of those thoughts that come to my head, and then we'll open it up and we'll scroll down and see all of the questions over here on the screen, and I'll do my best to answer as many questions as I can for the next 15 to 20 minutes. I don't want to take too much of your time in this evening, but then again, there is no March Madness. There's nothing to look at. I was even watching reruns of the 2017 NIT tournament. That was the one that TCU won. So it was kind of neat to see the Horned Frogs win that tournament. But I got to tell you, I'm suffering some serious withdrawals without having March Madness. But let's talk about what's going on. You know, last night at midnight, there was an edict, a mandate that was put in order here in Dallas and Dallas County. I live in Dallas County, although I'm in Garland, Texas. And at midnight, all restaurants, bars, theaters, and gymnasiums were closed. And you can go to a restaurant, you can get takeout, but there are no sit downs at restaurants because people are trying to honor this, social distancing, and then also no more than 10 people gathering at one time. That really put a big kink on those St. Patrick's Day get-togethers, didn't it? I know. And happy St. Patrick's Day to you all that are out there. I think this will be a St. Patrick's Day that we will all remember. But one of the things about looking at what's happened here in Dallas and Dallas County, we've had 14 reported cases. As of yesterday, when I checked the numbers, there have been no fatalities as far as I know. And for the state of Texas, we've had about 69 reported cases. I don't know about the fatalities, but today, Governor Greg Abbott did have a press conference, and he did activate the National Guard. They have not been sent out, but he gave them kind of a preparatory activation order to be ready to assist the state of Texas with any type of remedies or any type of aid and support with this coronavirus. One of the interesting things that Governor Abbott said in his press statement was that all of those individuals who in their primary civilian duties, they are medical professionals or first responders, they will not be part of this activation and call up. He wants them to make sure that he is working in their local communities. And I can understand an activation order for the National Guard. One of the things we want to do, and one of the things that we really do have a lot of in our reserve component, that's not the active duty, but the reserve component, be reserves and National Guard, those hospital facilities, those field hospitals and things of that nature that they can set up. And that truly will be a great way to help and support in this event as it goes forward. But one of the most important aspects that I want to try to convey to you all, let's be sensible. Let's not allow ourselves to be driven into a herd mentality or be lemmings that are forced off the cliff. I see a lot of paranoia, hysteria, panic, and even fear that is out there. I've been to my local Walmart and checked out some of the shelves and everything, and there have even been reports of some tussles in some of these grocery stores and what have you. We don't need to do that. See, Sir Winston Churchill once said that fear is a reaction. Courage is a decision. And of course, Franklin Delano Roosevelt said the only thing that we have to fear is fear itself. And I really believe that what is causing all of this panic, you look at our economic markets, my wife Angela and I, we talk about this every day. It is because there's a fear of the unknown. There's a phobos that is out there. That was the old Greek god of fear. We don't really have our arms wrapped around this. We don't really understand it. But understand, we've been through some tough times before here in the United States of America. Let us not forget 9/11. But the reactions that we see today, I don't think they're the reactions of people taking a calm approach. You know, I went back and did some reading because I always like to put things in a comparative analysis state. So I went to the Center for Disease Control 2011 report that was written by a Sundar S. Shrestha, Shrestha, Sundar S. Shrestha, Shrestha. And it was all about after action review, an after action report, an analysis of the H1N1, the swine flu, that occurred from approximately the 12th of April 2009 to the 10th of April 2010. And just going through the summary, I didn't go through the entire report, but you go through the abstract. And what was very interesting to me was that during that time, we had 61 million Americans that were infected by that swine flu. And in the end, 12,469 Americans, 12,469 lost their lives. Now, as of this date, and I just checked the numbers before I came and sat down with you, we've had about 6,200 Americans that have been infected with this coronavirus, and 105 Americans have died. We just had, I think the report was 22 yesterday. But I really think the most important thing that we can share with the American people is this. When we talk about new cases, we also need to put that in a comparative analysis and understand how many of those previously reported cases have now successfully survived the coronavirus and they've been released from quarantine or been released from the hospital or what have you. When we talk about these 105 Americans who have unfortunately and tragically lost their lives to this sickness and this virus, let's share the demographics so we can get a better understanding about this. Because I don't want us to be driven into such a paranoia. Now, it's very important that we follow all of the protocols out there that is necessary. We need to make sure that we keep ourselves healthy. We need to make sure that we're not coughing and sneezing on others. We need to make sure that we keep our hands clean. But I'm starting to be very concerned about some of the political exploitation of this event. Case in point, and we shared it with you on theoldschoolpatriot.com, the mayor of Champaign, Illinois, Mayor Finan, I believe her name is, she came out with an edict that really included confiscation of private property. She declared a state of emergency, even though in Champaign, Illinois, she had no cases reported of the coronavirus. Another one of those mandates that she put out there was that she was going to restrict any further gun sales or ammunition purchases. Let me share with you another quote. And this comes from Benjamin Franklin. And this is kind of paraphrased, but I think it's very important. Those who would surrender essential liberty for temporary security, in the end will not deserve neither security nor liberty. I don't want to see us get to the point where we are just completely surrendering our essential liberties. As I said, once you open that Pandora's box, it's going to be very hard to shut that box down. And I'm talking about a lot of hysteria. I got text messages this morning talking about interstates being shut down and even talking about martial law in the United States of America. This is not China. And we should not follow any methods or examples of China. As a matter of fact, we should be very forthright in saying that this is the Chinese coronavirus. We can call it a Wuhan coronavirus. And those insidious, useful idiots that are out there that are trying to criticize people for saying that, that's the origin. And when we talk about the origin, how interesting it is that the Chinese government just threw out, I believe, 5 U.S. media outlets, to include the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, and the Washington Post. Obviously, they don't want information to get out. They don't want the truth to get out. One of the critical things I think President Trump should do is call the Chinese ambassador to the United States of America into the White House for a meeting. And it should be a very forthright, eyeball-to-eyeball meeting. We, the people of the United States of America, want to know the origin of this coronavirus. We don't want to be fed a line of you know what. We want to know what happened. We want the access. We want to be able to go in there and do an investigation with our Center for Disease Control. We want to be able to track this and trace this. Do I trust the Chinese information system? Absolutely not, because it's government controlled, which tells us a thing about why we should not have a socialist or a communist authoritarian rule here in the United States of America, which controls the media. And speaking of the media, I kind of went back and looked at some of the reactions from the media back in 2009 and 2010 when the swine flu was going on. 61 million Americans affected in that time period. 12,469 lost their lives. I didn't see the same type of hysteria on front pages. I didn't see the same type of condemnation of the sitting president at that time. I'm not going to get political, but I think you know who that president was. So I want to make sure that we're not politicizing this. As Rahm Emanuel would say, never let a good crisis go to waste. But even here in the state of Texas, we've had groups that support illegal immigration say that we should stop deportations because of this coronavirus. U.S. Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley even went on television over the weekend and said that we should release prisoners, set them free because of the coronavirus. What a non-swell idea. But this is the type of hysteria. This is the type of irrational thought that is being processed out there. And we have to be careful of that. In 1918, we had this thing called the Spanish flu. 50 million people died. Thank God that we have a strong private sector, not government controlled healthcare system that can be flexible, that can respond to these types of chronic illnesses and viruses that we see out there. I think that's one of the great advantages that we have here in the United States of America. And yes, I do applaud the president for shutting down and instituting a travel ban with China and some of the other Far East countries, and then, of course, doing the same with the European Union. One of the problems with the European Union, well, people can freely travel within that European Union zone. And how obnoxious was it for presidential candidate Joe Biden, former vice president, to stand in a debate Sunday night and say that he's going to stop all deportations at a time when we should be very concerned about who's illegally crossing our border and what health crises they may be bringing to our shores. But the most important thing is, let's all take a deep breath. It's very interesting that, now we can't go out and sit down and have a meal. I know that some places are trying to accommodate it by saying, okay, we're going to spread the tables out and everything, at least 3 feet of separation. But I hear people talking about, and I know that I have dear friends out in the San Francisco area, but they have been told to fixate themselves in their house. That's not really an American response. Americans operate with courage, which is a decision. We don't operate in the realm of fear, which is a reaction. So what I would like to see happen is more information to come out. And like I said, the president needs to bring in the ambassador from China and be very forthright in asking for every single bit of information about how this originated. Because there are too many conspiracy theories that are out there. We need to confirm what happened. Then furthermore, we need to have access. If China does not want to cooperate and give us the access, then it's very important, ladies and gentlemen, we start diversifying our supply chains. We stop being dependent upon China. If there's one lesson to be learned coming out of this coronavirus scare that leadership will show us, and I've heard this said before, let me reiterate it, production and manufacturing has to come back home. If we are so much concerned about getting cheap goods from China, think about the trillions of dollars that we have lost in the last 2 weeks in our markets, our 401ks, because of this scare that originated in China. They're already costing us trillions of dollars. You don't think that it's worthwhile for you to pay, I don't know, an extra 50 cents, an extra dollar, an extra $5 to make sure that the United States of America is never in this position of subservience and subjugation? to the communist Chinese regime led by a dictator by the name of Xi Jinping? That's the choice. That's the decision that we have to make coming out of this. Let me close by discussing the fact that there are some presidential primaries going on today. Yep, Ohio canceled theirs, but Florida, Illinois, and Arizona are continuing on. And we're going to find out, I believe, after tonight, without a doubt, Bernie Sanders probably is going to have to pull the plug, although I don't think he will. But there is no way that Bernie Sanders is going to win Florida, especially after what he said praising the brutal communist dictator Fidel Castro. So Joe Biden is in the front. There's no doubt about it. Joe Momentum is going on. And then one of the things that Joe Biden said Sunday night in the debate is that he is going to pick a female to be his running mate. That female has to be someone that does two things. That female has to somewhat quell the concerns of the far left progressive socialists of the Democrat Party, their base, the people that support Bernie Sanders. But then that candidate also has to enable the Democrat Party to hold on to a black electorate who right now, 30 to 34% is the approval rating for President Trump in the black community. Joe Biden's campaign was resurrected because of the black community, the black electorate in South Carolina. So when you start to consider who would Joe Biden pick to be a running mate, he's already said it has to be a female. Elizabeth Warren doesn't bring anything to the table. Amy Klobuchar does not bring anything to the table. The people we need to start thinking about and looking at are Kamala Harris, Stacey Abrams out of Georgia, and potentially, if she could be coaxed into doing so, former First Lady Michelle Obama, who would come back to run with the former vice president of her husband in order to save her husband's legacy. I could write this story right now. But as the song by The Who goes, we won't be fooled again. Now let me go to your questions. Okay, Kathy Doyle, if we don't get actual access to trace their actual origin in China, the United States needs to pull all manufacturing of our meds from there and bring it all back here. Kathy, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And that should be something that the president should take an action on within the next 24 to 48 hours to bring that ambassador to China in there and say, here is what we demand. If we don't get the access, if we don't understand the origin, you've just kicked out 5 of our media outlets, preeminent outlets. Maybe we don't like the New York Times, we don't like the Washington Post, but they're still American media outlets. They should not be kicked out. That's a violation of our First Amendment freedom of the press value that we hold dear in America. But the more important thing that we hold dear in America are American lives. And the Chinese right now are responsible for the deaths of 105 Americans, not to mention all the other people across the world. Andrea Gullett, a non-swell idea. I like how you put that. I'm not always so kind, work in progress. That's okay. I can, lose it, but right now I think it's very important. One of the things that I used to teach my young officers when I was a commander in the military is that cool heads always prevail. But there are times when you have to get a little upset. And, in the next couple of days, since there's no March Madness or anything going on, I would like for you all to go back and look at that film called Gettysburg. One of my favorite American military heroes is Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain, the hero of Little Round Top, second day of the Battle of Gettysburg. If you want to know about calm, cool leadership in a crisis situation, read about Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain. He was just an ordinary person, a professor of rhetoric from Bowdoin College, Maine. But he had a call to arms, a call to duty to protect and preserve this union, and also to honor the ability to liberate those who had not had freedom. And because he was an educated man, he was given a commission as an officer. He was given the command of the unit, 20th Maine. And on that second day at Gettysburg, he found himself at the end of the line, the end of the Army of the Potomac, told to not surrender, not retreat. And read about the situation that he faced. Fear is a reaction. Courage is a decision. Read about the decision that Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain made at Little Round Top. Linda Smith Allen, still got to make student loan payments. Yeah, I know. But remember this, young lady. It was the Obamacare legislation where the federal government nationalized student loans and they raised the interest rates. Yeah, that's what they did. So one of the incredible lessons learned that we're seeing with all of these colleges and universities that are going, canceling the rest of the semester and going to online instruction, do we need to be paying all that money for those posh residence halls at some of these places? Maybe we can save some money. Students can actually just focus on getting a quality education online. Something to think about. Teresa Garner, we need to move our manufacturing out of China. Absolutely. And I think that is, again, the preeminent lesson to be learned here is that when China came out and threatened that they would cut off medical supplies to us, we should never allow a geopolitical foe, which is what China is, a communist regime, to threaten us. And we should not put ourselves in a position that we are so desiring of cheap goods that they could take advantage of us like that. So that's an important lesson. That's how cool heads will always prevail. Ronnie Ivy, smart and knowledgeable guy. I don't know if my wife would agree with that. Hating you has raised the bar for you. Good luck. Oh, good luck and God bless in your future. Thank you very much. For those of you that don't know, we're running for the chairmanship of the Republican Party of Texas here. We announced that candidacy back in August. We'll see what happens. They're talking about moving the state convention away from mid-May to mid-July. But I think the vote may still happen in May as it was intended to be because Texas is on the front lines of an ideological battleground, and we need to make sure that we hold Texas so that we can hold this nation. So if you would like to know more about our campaign to be the chairman for the Republican Party of Texas, please go to west4texas.com, west4texas.com. Brian Fisher, vote red. Scary a communist is that close to winning the nomination. And I'm sure you're talking about Bernie Sanders. And speaking of education, speaking about college campuses, it might not be a bad thing to not have our kids going on campus and being indoctrinated by these socialist professors. We need to understand what the free market and the free enterprise system is all about. China is a communist country. Now, it does not have a socialist economic model because they did not want to go down the path of the Soviet Union, but it's still a communist country. It is a brutal authoritarian regime. They're not our friends. And I think that 105 Americans have lost their lives because China is not our friend. I'm praying that this is not something intentional, that this is not something purposeful, that this is not the result of some biological warfare test that went the wrong way. But if it is, and that's why we need to hold China accountable, that's why we need to investigate, well, Katie barred the door. Because this is very serious. And I hope that the United Nations, well, I doubt that they'll do anything. I take that back. But China should not be sitting on the United Nations Security Council after what just happened with this Wuhan Chinese coronavirus. BB, well, we knew that when we took out the loan. That is life. Well, BB, I got it, but still, we need to do the best that we can to protect our college students. And we do need to make college education affordable. And I said education, not indoctrination. So we don't want to, turn colleges into these 5-star resort hotels, which is what a lot of them look like. We want you to go there and get a quality education and prepare you to be a productive member of the 21st century economy here in the United States of America. And we got to do better. Okay, David Kuno. Thank you, sir, for your service. Our son is Army CBRN and deployed. Now, please keep him in your prayers. Dave, thank you for raising a warrior. And we keep all of our sons and daughters who are standing out there on freedom's front ramparts in our prayers, as well as our first responders that are out there every single day. The thin blue line. They're trying to ensure that we are safe and secure in our neighborhoods and communities. Mark B. Childress, thank you for quoting The Who. Yeah, we won't be fooled again, my friend. Katrina Lund, do you think the Democrats will try to bring up impeachment 2.0 after the virus epidemic dies down? I think that well has run dry, but they are without a doubt going to try to do everything they possibly can to undermine the president. And I'm telling you, it was a little bit different reaction from the media with the swine flu, the H1N1, from April of 2009 to April of 2010, where 61 million Americans were infected. 12,469 lost their lives. I don't like politicizing crises, but this is what we're seeing happen right now. We should all be rallying, coming together, and supporting each other, because this virus does not attack conservatives only. This virus does not attack progressive socialists only. This virus attacks anybody. And if there's one time that we can come together, do the right thing, and put political advancement behind, it should be right now. And we've got to do something to make sure we don't head down to an economic crisis. There are going to be Americans out there that are hurting because of all of these shutdowns that we see happening. We got to take care of them first. Terry Wolf Roberson, Stacey Abrams, are you kidding? Terry, one of the things we have to start understanding is that we should not think as we think. We got to think about the other side. That's some of that Sun Tzu stuff. We got to understand their goals and objectives. And remember what I said. Joe Biden said Sunday night that he is going to pick a female vice presidential candidate. So what type of female vice presidential candidate does he need? One that will appease the Bernie Sanders base, and one that will keep the black electorate in his side. President Trump has made incredible inroads in the black community because of deeds, because of results, because of his policies. What the left always runs on is image and identity politics. So Kamala Harris, who came out a couple of Sundays ago and endorsed Joe Biden, Stacey Abrams, and then possibly Michelle Obama. Just be on the lookout. Kenneth Rich, God bless Texas. Absolutely right. Texas is the standard bearer for the United States of America. So goes Texas, so goes this great nation. Texas is all about our liberties, our personal liberties, our individual freedoms. And if there's one thing I don't want to see happen, is Texas open up the Pandora's box of usurping individual liberties and freedoms. Let's see. Joy Ross Wagner. I think giving $1,000 to people on furlough should be rethought. People who received $2,000 cash cards after Hurricane Katrina spend it on jewelry, strip clubs, bars instead of food, clothing, or housing. I agree. I think that, just handing cash out, that's not what we want to do here in the United States of America. And that is also to include handing cash out to industries. I think the most important thing we need to look at is how can we have a tax holiday? How can we put money immediately back into these taxpayers' pockets? And I think that there's plenty of money up there in the federal government if they would sit down and cut their spending. I heard a great quote from Art Laffer. He said, government spending is not a stimulus. He's absolutely right. So this $850 billion that they're talking about floating out there, that's not a stimulus. That's not what we do. And I can almost believe that there's $850 billion that can be found in wasteful spending in the United States federal government. I think those guys and gals up there in the Senate and the House of Representatives should sit down and go line by line at all those government agencies they have oversight over, and they can find probably $900 billion of wasteful spending and put that back into the hands of the American taxpayers. Katie Boatwright, China has its foot on the throat of the United Nations. Well, you're right. I mean, when you think about it, the UN Security Council, you have Russia and China that's sitting on it. Hey, how many cases of this coronavirus has there been in Russia? Doesn't Russia kind of have a close border with China? Things to make you go, Charles Rodriguez. That's what I was thinking it was. As a chemical NCO with the 50th chemical company, it's a biological gone wrong. Hey, Charles Rodriguez, thank you for your service. I'm praying that I'm wrong. But right now, I think the most important question that needs to be answered to the American people is the origin of this coronavirus. And China owes that to not just the United States of America, but to the world. And if China wants to shut itself down and put its head in the sand or just say, hey, we're not playing this game, we're not going to tell you, we're not going to talk to you, then there should be some economic ramifications against China. But without a doubt, we got to get production and manufacturing back into the United States of America. We should never be in a situation where our supply chain is so dependent upon China, where we have certain industries that are so dependent upon China, a communist nation. I'm going to say something, maybe it's revolutionary, but I don't care. Why don't we have better relations with Taiwan? Why don't we start opening up better industries with Taiwan? And tell the Chinese, the communist Chinese, where they can go. Ted Lander, what do you think about the Texas National Guard being deployed? And thank you for your service. Thank you, Ted. Again, I started out talking about the fact that Governor Abbott had issued an activation order, but he had a couple of caveats. He said that medical personnel, civilian medical personnel, and also first responders would not be part of that activation. So let's sit back and see what happens with this National Guard activation and who and what will be the task and purpose of the units that are called up. So again, I'm not really keen on losing essential liberties for temporary security. But if there are things that the National Guard can do and help to ensure that we have a good flow of supplies to people, that's fine by me. And you all stop hoarding the toilet paper. Really? Toilet paper? Come on, give me a break. Just don't touch the double stuffed golden Oreos. If I don't see double stuffed golden Oreos when I go out to the grocery store, I will be upset. I already don't have March Madness. Sue Conroy, if he gets elected, they will put him on a home. If he gets elected, they will put him on a home. Sue Conroy, can you please resend that question because I don't quite understand what you're saying. Ms. Malanis, when this is all over, I would love for you to speak at my Republican club in New York City. Young lady, I'd be happy to do that. And if we can get through this chairmanship race here in the great state of Texas, I got to take care of some pressing matters if I become the chairman of the Republican Party of Texas, because the left has Texas at the top of their list to flip our Texas State House and do everything they can to undermine the principles and values that we have here in Texas and our policies. So when I get the chance, Ms. Malanga, I will do everything I can to come speak to your Republican club in New York City. I'm sure that will really upset the socialist mayor, Bill de Blasio. So we'll see what we can do on the backside, maybe in 2021. Anissa Satterwright Stallcup, thank you for your service. God bless you, ma'am. David Rath, I agree 100%. Kamala Harris, oh no. Yeah, look, it's all about identity politics, and that's why she came out really fast and put out her endorsement, because she sees a window of opportunity. She's a very opportunistic person. I get it. I understand that's politics. Okay. Philip D. Diller, remember, made in America or not made at all. I think we've got to get that sense of American pride back. And those people out there that don't understand what America first means, America first means that we're not allowing the Chinese to kill Americans. That can't happen. And again, the Chinese ambassador to the United States of America needs to be called into the White House tomorrow or Thursday at the latest. And we need to know the origins of this. We need to have access. We need to be able to go and investigate. They're throwing out 5 U.S. media outlets. And like I said, I know you don't like the New York Times or the Washington Post, but those are American media outlets. Something's not right. We need to get to the bottom of it. Mary Williams O'Day, good evening, sir. Strategically, I believe this may never test run for something else planned. This may be a test run for something else planned. I tell you, I don't know. I don't like to get into conspiracy theories, but I will tell you that when I look at the comparison of how we responded to even 9/11 or the H1N1 that was April of 2009 to April 2010, 61 Americans infected, 12,469 lost their lives. There is a big difference in how we responded. There's a big difference in how the media has responded too. Don't get caught up in the herd mentality. Don't be a lemming that gets driven off the cliff. Stay cool, stay calm, get informed. Read, folks. Like I said, there's no March Madness. There's no bracketology. So we need to read. And also, watch that movie Gettysburg. Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain. Brian Fisher, it would be the ultimate in hypocrisy if Kamala is Joe's running mate. After her calling him a racist, her endorsement in front of a brick wall looked like she was forced, but you said it. It doesn't make sense, but they only care about power. They only care about power, and they understand identity politics. They understand winning demographics. In 2016, they lost because Hillary Clinton did not attract the black electorate vote. If Kamala Harris or even Stacey Abrams is that vice presidential nominee, Oprah Winfrey is going to be out there on the stump all over the United States of America. She's going to be here in Texas too. Let's see, Chris Triplett, thank you very much for your compliments. Loretta Francis Smith Polachek, I want to know the connection between Wuhan and the Harvard professor and the two spies arrested for taking big bucks in payments and hiding 2 Chinese spies as student research assistants. Samples were found being shipped back and forth. Really want to know more. And you're talking about the issue with the Harvard professor that was arrested and his connection with those 2 students, that there was a little biomedical research or something that was being shared with the Wuhan facility. That's what we need to do. I need to know motive. This thing didn't just pop up out of nowhere. I know the Chinese said this was all animal to human connections or whatever. I'm not from Missouri, but I understand that thing. Show me. Judith Garce Brown. With China a communist nation, who made the decisions for China to have full production of almost everything? Why give China so much power over America? There's those free trade agreements. There are people that believe in unrestricted free trade. They don't understand fair trade. They don't understand free trade with your geopolitical enemy. And again, just the same as when I was in Congress and we had to deal with the Chinese drywall that was killing South Floridians. When we get hung up in having things for cheap, we'll prostitute ourselves out to anybody. Exact same thing happened to the Romans as well. Production and manufacturing has got to come home. Or production and manufacturing has to be with people that we can truly trust as allies, not a communist country like China. Melody Pollard Houston, would love for you to run for president 4 years, fellow Texan. Well, Melody, my most important objective right now is to become the chairman of the Republican Party of Texas so that we can hold Texas. We hold Texas, we hold the nation. Then we'll see what God has in store. But that's what I'm focused on right now. And again, go to west4texas.com, west4texas.com. Lynn Gatling, please keep us informed. Your demeanor is calming. Thank you, sir. Well, when you've been shot at, that's a pretty, uncalming event. And if you can keep your calm in a firefight, you can keep your calm through anything. So yes, because of the fact that we've had a lot of public speaking engagements across the state of Texas that have been canceled because of this coronavirus issue, we're going to do more of these Facebook Lives. We'll do maybe 2 a week, because we do want to keep you informed. We do want you to get a calming analysis. And I want you to think. I want you to get out there and research. I don't want you to be driven into the herd mentality. Kathy Robertson, when are you going to run for president? Hey, look, I don't know. Again, that's one of those things I don't think about. Chairmanship of the Republican Party of Texas, that's the most important thing, because we are under assault by a progressive socialist ideological movement here in the state of Texas. And when we look at our major population centers here in the state of Texas, they're controlled by the other side. That should not happen in Texas. That should not be happening anywhere in the United States of America, but especially here in Texas. We should not have the failed ideologies, policies, and principles of the other side taking root in a state that knows what individual liberty and freedom is all about. Growth, opportunity, and prosperity is happening in Texas because of constitutional conservative policies. We need to make sure they stay strong. Let's see. Kevin Ivey, airborne all the way. When people can't feed their kids, all bets are off. And that's, Kevin, the most important thing we have to do. We need to, this is not about carpet bombing, this whole response, this whole financial aid, stimulus, whatever you call it. This has to be laser focused to the people that are going to be hurting the most. When you think about the fact that there's no March Madness, think about those vendors, think about those arena workers, think about who that affects. Think about, you know, spring training for baseball is over. Think about the people that depend upon spring training. That's what we have to be focused on. That's what leadership is all about. Chris Ferguson, I would settle for made in America or with our true allies or nothing. Absolutely. That's what we have to do. Let's see. James Champagne, you need to come to Houma, Louisiana and preach a chapel at our school. You know, I'm not a preacher, but I'll be happy to come and talk to a school one day. But right now, the most important thing for me is to keep Texas squared away. And that's important for the rest of America. We keep Texas squared away, then maybe I can come and talk to those kids at that school there and at their chapel in Louisiana. But always remember this, folks, Proverbs 22:6. Your responsibility as a parent. Train up a child in the way that they should go, so that when they grow old, they shall not depart from it. All right, 3 more minutes, and then I'm going to let you guys cut loose. You guys got homework. You got to go and look at the movie Gettysburg. It's only 7:42 here in Texas. Yeah, it's 8:42. You can't go out and drink. I know it's St. Patrick's Day, but you can't do that. And you can't have more than 10 people in your house, and then you violate some mandate, some order. But if you do have more than 10 people in your house, sit down and watch the movie Gettysburg and watch what calm under pressure is all about. Carrie Kogoshal-Rosinski. How come the lack of cases in Russia is never mentioned? I just mentioned it. Now, I can understand North Korea because North Korea is a Stalinist regime. They don't have any information coming in and going out. But something's up. I don't hear nothing about Russia. That's why the Chinese ambassador to the United States needs to be called into the White House. We need to know the origin of this virus. Because right now, the Chinese are responsible for the deaths of Americans. And I'm sick and tired of these viruses popping up out of China, and Americans are losing their lives because of it. Last question. Jeanette Felker Dunn. It's like the flu no longer exists. People die every day and it strikes all ages. Jeanette, I couldn't say it better. On average, I mean, the flu every year affects millions of Americans. Tens of thousands die. That's why there's something very different about this. And I want to close with this quote from Benjamin Franklin. Those who would surrender essential liberty for temporary security will in the end deserve neither security nor liberty. There's something just kind of doesn't settle right in my stomach about what is happening right now, because we've seen other health crises before. As I said, with the H1N1 swine flu from April of 2009 to April of 2010, according to the 2011 Center for Disease Control study written by Sundar S. Shrestha. Man, that's a hard word to say. Shrestha. 12,469 Americans lost their lives. I don't recall March Madness being canceled. I don't recall talks about shutdowns. I don't recall National Guard callouts. I just don't. I don't recall the media hysteria. I don't recall people going out and hoarding toilet paper. There's something different about this. And the only way we quell fear is to get the information out there. But please, people, please, my fellow Americans, do not succumb to the panic, the hysteria, the paranoia, and the fear that will lead you to surrender your essential liberties. God bless you all. Have a good night.